Hey, gang! It is Wednesday, and I am coming to you from Longboat Key, Florida, at the Smiles in the Sun meeting. So I'm excited to be here. You may have seen my post, got a little bit of an early start with my wife watching a beautiful sunset here. But so excited to be here and so excited to be with all of you here for Humpday Happy Hour and Dentists in the Know. As you know, this is your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. It is live as always. Tonight, it is over a lovely red blend, a conundrum. And very happy to be with you tonight. And I'm here as always with some of my best friends in the world who also happen to be dentists. And that is Dr. Jennifer Bell and Dr. Chad Duplantis. As you all know, all of us are practicing dentists. All of us are business owners. And not all of us have a cold, but all of us are also educators, and our job is to bring all of you in the know. Everyone, we have an incredible show. We didn't talk about this yet, but it is Oral Cancer Awareness Month, and all of us, of course, in dentistry take that very seriously. And so we have something very special. The people at Velscope have been so generous, and they are going to be donating, or they have donated a Velscope for us to give away. Chad will give you the details on that. But we also have the president of the Academy of General Dentistry, and you know that for Jennifer and Chad and myself, that organization just means everything to us. It's one of the founding principles of how we practice and what education means to all of us. So we're so excited to have Hans Guter on tonight, and looking forward to chatting with him. But before we do, JB, do you have some news in a raspy voice?
Always. Do you remember that episode of Friends? I'm going to pull the mic over. The episode of Friends where Phoebe got a cold. And so she was actually then really talented when she was singing. And she's like, smelly cat, smelly cat. And it was like so raspy and deep. And then when it went away, she was like walking around to anyone who was sneezing going, sneeze on me. I need it back. I need the voice back. I can tell you today, who's from a person who sounded prepubescent most of the day, where it would go like, I don't want it back. I want to get rid of it. I want my old voice back. So first off, I just want to say, as a minor correction, we have talked about Oral Cancer Awareness Month, Jeff. We mentioned it last week in the dental news, but of course that goes through the end of the month. And we're bringing attention to it tonight by bringing on Dr. Guter and the AGD, who has a foundation that is supporting oral cancer screenings and awareness. So we're going to talk a lot more about that. So excited to have that on the program. Secondly, as we mentioned last week, with the shift and change that happened with the COVID-19 emergency declaration, I guess is the right word, and that's going to be the end of funding for some of the Medicaid and CHIP programs. A lot of people are going to come off the roll of receiving government support for dental oral health needs. So if you are a provider for Medicaid or CHIP programs and you have patients in your population, really awesome opportunity to go ahead and start doing some social media campaigns, try to get the word out, reach your community to let them know, because I'm not 100% sure that they all understand that there's going to be a big change that happens on May 11th, where a lot of people are coming off of the government-funded roles and will not be receiving access to Medicaid and CHIP funding for traditional healthcare as well as oral healthcare. So if you can, boost up capacity and provide occupancy in your health practices as a provider of Medicaid and CHIP, it certainly seems like a great opportunity, both to maybe have some good production, meet the needs of your community, and see if you can't get some of those folks who are going to lose funding in just a few short days in to get a checkup, treat urgent needs that need to be resolved, and hopefully prepare them for this transition after May 11th. From a dental news perspective, mostly the things that I identified this week or kind of honed in on were more corporate related. We don't talk a ton about corporate things that are happening out around the world, but because usually the government is doing a lot of stuff and we need to be keeping our eye on things. But we're currently in a bit of a quiet stretch. A lot of emphasis is being put on healthcare workforce and access to care. And we're watching those bills and discussions happening in different committees and see what sort of materializes and comes forward as an actual bill for vote. But for right now, there's just a lot of emphasis and proposals coming forward in the different committees. In the meantime, a lot of activity happening in the corporate world. One of our previous guests, Dr. Edward Zuckerberg, took on a dental advisory position just this week with a company called Velmini. That is an AI dental technology company. Their focus is on AI application within the dental realm. And they brought Dr. Zuckerberg on for his expertise, both in technology as well as the oral biome, which he has made that a real passion project in his career post chairside treatment. And if you didn't catch that episode with him, that was on a few weeks ago. It's available on our podcast as well as on our YouTube channel. Fantastic episode with an individual who really is seeing a very unique second phase of his dental career and doing some really cool stuff for the advancement of oral healthcare. Excuse me. Second is, if you're familiar with the company Convergent is the company who's selling the Solea laser. They took a $50 million injection of capital this week to hopefully push the dental laser adoption of their CO2 laser. And lastly, which I thought was a bit interesting, and I'm trying to process if I think it's a good thing or a bad thing. So feel free to comment or advise, give me an opinion because I'm sitting on the fence about how I feel. But the University of Pennsylvania added 2 new board members this week. One is a VP of international sales from Dentsply. His name is Jorg Vogel. And the second one is from Midmark, Dr. Thomas Schweinerman, which is the VP of Clinical Affairs and the Board of Medicine. Or Chief Medical Officer. So they brought both of those individuals into the Board of Advisories at UPenn Dental School. They'll serve a 3-year term. It's a volunteer position. I think it's interesting. I don't know how prevalent it is that dental schools have board members that represent corporations and corporate interests. It's certainly an interesting juxtaposition to have for-profit and non-for-profit sitting on the same board. And will that be to the advantage of the dental students or a disservice? And with that, that's the news.
So the secret word or the secret phrase is squamous cell carcinoma. For those of you watching, once again, the secret phrase is squamous cell carcinoma. So there you go. There you have it. Enter the contest.
Jeff, you had a question.
I did. No, I actually think it is not a bad idea for some of our for-profit corporations to be on these boards. I think a lot of them want dentists to be successful as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have a lot of the same positive intentions and want good for the profession as well. The ones that I really worry about are some of the corporate dental, the DSOs. I mean, that's what I worry about is, does it become more about churning out dentists that just produce? And
right.
Those worry me a little bit more than those companies that are really our partners in success. Like, they want dentists to do well and to be a really well-respected profession, because when we do well, they do well. And I think that there's some real common interests there. But
well, and I love to see technology companies on the board as well, because I feel like dental schools as a collective group, and it may be individually very different, but they're a little behind on implementation of technology. So putting them strategically on board positions gets more injection of current ways of doing dentistry, that's a good thing.
Right.
Vested interest, yes. Ownership of the school, no.
That's correct.
Agreed. We're on the same page there, buddy.
JB, you want to introduce our guest?
I'm so excited for our guest tonight, by the way.
I would love to.
Yeah.
So Jeff and I have served on the AGD for too long, probably. And I've had the privilege of getting to know Dr. Guter over the last couple of years. In fairness, our paths have only recently crossed as he's moved into an executive level of position. And I've continued to remain in the trenches, but very grumpy and loud in the trenches. So he's politely shaking his head.
Yes,
but our paths have started. I know our paths have started to cross and commingle in such a beautiful way. And I'm excited to have him on tonight. I'm excited to talk more about the AGD Foundation and what good work they're doing for oral cancer awareness and screening. I'm excited to talk about organized dentistry and what it's doing specifically for general dentists, and what the future of dentistry looks like, both for us as clinicians, but for Dr. Guter moving forward in his presidency. So thank you, Hans, for being here tonight.
Well,
welcome.
Thanks, guys. You guys are a hoot. Who needs a sitcom show to warm you up for this event? I happened, as you know, I will tag in on what bad events, what stressors happened. Well, I had my stressor 5 minutes before I logged on here. I'm sitting on a Mac and I can't access the way on. So I told you, I said, let me get my IT person on this. And I yelled upstairs to my wife down here and load this up. So I toast you. I told you I was looking forward to this.
Cheers, Hans,
my friend.
Welcome.
You made me take a really big sip of my Blanton's when my computer wouldn't open up. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be fun. Now you guys are phenomenal. You guys, I get to do this for a couple of years, but you guys, just keep doing it. I mean, my travel schedule this year's been crazy, but somehow I managed to see you all almost everywhere. And so kudos to you for what you're doing for the profession. This is, I know you recruit new people every week. I have promoted you. I'm hoping our entire AGD family is on Wednesday nights. You are, when I explain to people, you are the Friends of Dentistry, the TV show. To tune in on Wednesday nights and watch your friends on the computer screen. So love everything you do. Yes, and JB always has such and I have to be careful because we have another JB in the organization.
Yeah.
The pretty one.
Wait. Can I stop you?
Yes.
There is no other JB.
Well,
I'm going to say no, not.
There's a JB wannabe in New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Wannabes are okay.
He was born somehow he was born before her, but he wants to be her when he grows up.
Back in our day, we called those posers.
But you guys, in spite of the fact that you bring so much fun and levity to this program, you guys are some of the most well-versed people. And in Jennifer, I have gotten to work with her, and she is a huge scholar when it comes to advocacy issues and legislative issues. And not to toot her horn, but when Jennifer speaks, people listen. And
that's very true.
Agreed.
And you pay close attention to what she's saying because she knows what she's talking about, and her ideas are sound, as are all of yours. But the synergy you guys have created in this program is phenomenal, and I'm just honored to be here tonight.
Well, thank you. Where should we send the check, Hans?
Yeah.
The AGD Foundation.
Yeah. Gift basket.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your kind words. I was, I'll tell you what, Hans, it's sometimes the little things in life that impress me, but I'm going to tell partially a joke and then partially a true story. But yesterday I was looking and we asked for a bio for all of our guests, and Hans sends us a damn resume. Okay. So I'm reading through his CV. I'm like, how do I post this? So I'm like, I go to Hans's website and I look up his practice webpage. And the thing that struck me the most is that there is a letter to your patients talking about what you've done for the AGD, the role that you've taken, that you're still going to be there for them. You're going to be there a little bit less, but you're always there. Part of me was like, what the hell's wrong with you? Because you used to work Saturdays. I'm like, Jesus, Hans, we need to work on this a little bit. But I did too. I get it. And I just really was like, he's one of us. And that's what I want everybody to realize, is that Hans is not only the president of the AGD, but he's one of us. He's one of us, compassionate. I hate this phrase, but it is what it is. He's a wet finger dentist and he cares about the people that he works on. And you know what? I know as a patient, I'm sitting there thinking, hey, that's pretty cool. You ought to go see my dentist. He's president of the AGD. What's that? I have no freaking clue, but he's the president, yo. You know, it was cool. I dig it, man.
After 33 years, I gave up my one Saturday a month because I think my staff and my patients would have killed me, because I actually have 3 hygienists in on Saturdays. We only worked a half a day, but I said my schedule is going to be changing almost on a weekly basis. And fortunately, I see patients Monday through Thursday, so I'm able to travel Thursday through Sunday. And I said, I will have a revolt if I say you need to cancel that one and reschedule it. So I took it as an opportunity to write that letter and say, because of my commitment and not wanting to inconvenience you with your appointments. And you know what? Everybody took it very well. And I still to this day get congratulations when patients come in. It kind of throws me off because it's, the election was actually 2.5 years ago. And, I wrote that letter last fall. So, it's like, what are you congratulating me for? He said, well, your presidency. And I went, well, thank you so much.
That's awesome.
But they really do. You mentioned the AGD, and, the best part of this organization is, if you read my long bio there, 10 years at Pankey. So, I mean, you patients, and you guys are in the same boat. They come in and say, so what'd you learn this year? What new things? And, that's one of my favorite comments to them. I said, what I'm doing today, the materials I'm using today, the technology I'm using today may be totally different 5 years from now. I said, my passion is education, and it only translates to better care for you guys, because I'm not doing anything to you that I wouldn't want done in my mouth with the materials and the labs that I'm using. And so, I think they expect that of you, and we don't toot our own horns enough when we.
Hans, isn't it beautiful to build a practice like that, where your patients know that, you're not just off sipping pina coladas every weekend, that right. you're always off learning something new, and you're doing it, a lot for them. I mean, we're not going to see a return on investment for every piece of CE that right. we do, for every meeting that we go to. That's not why we do it. Right. But it's so nice when you end up having a practice where all of your patients know that's what you're doing. Right. And it's just this mutual respect then. And it's just something that can't really be built without that level of education anymore. And it's one of the reasons I'm so glad to have you on, and to say, I really want to get, especially someone who spent all that time at Pankey, and someone who values education the way that you do. What is your message to anyone out there who is not involved in the AGD? Because all of us, we spread the message all the time, how the AGD has changed our careers. I mean, all 3 of us have done this in, when we teach, when we're not teaching, when we're, when we're just talking to a student that's going through, that's maybe thinking about going to dental school, what is your message to all the dentists out there that maybe don't see the value in organized dentistry? Because there's so much more to it than just saying organized dentistry.
Right. Well, for me, my path to where I'm at now, I mean, it was just fortunate, right place at the right time. The practice I bought was from a gentleman who was a past national trustee of the academy, who was actually the first Pankey class, was taught by Dr. Pankey, invited me to an Ohio board meeting, and unbeknownst to me, on the agenda that afternoon was nomination of new board of directors. And I'm just sitting there, with, wide open eyes, taking it all in. And, the friendliness of the entire room, everybody was commiserating, sharing, discussing. And then my name popped up. I remember leaning over to Dr. Samuel and I said, but I'm not even a member. And he winked at me. He said, it's a mere formality. Dr. So-and-so over there is the treasurer. Just leave him a check. So that's how my journey started. But, the answer to your question is, when I talk to dental students, for instance, I tell them, I said, now more than ever, you need to be a student of your profession, and you need to join an organization that's, providing you cutting edge continuing education. I ran the Master Track program in Ohio for 15 years, and I butted heads with the dean at the dental school a couple of times when I was wanting to put on an Invisalign course or a Botox and dermafiller course with somebody you all know, Gigi, very well. And, I would talk with the dean. I said, look, these students need contemporary CE. You're giving them the basic CODA approved curriculum that they need to get a degree. I said, we, the AGD, are showing them other avenues, other things you can offer your patients, things you don't learn in dental school, things you, honestly, in all defensive dental schools, things you don't have enough time to learn in dental school. Because really, with what we have right now available to us, you could probably do 6 years of dental school and still not get exposure to everything. But I said, the academy is all about continuing education, and, not everybody has to follow the fellowship track or the master track or the LLSR. You can develop your own little niche of segment in dentistry that you want to, focus on. And the hands-on training is phenomenal. I'm very much a visual learner. So see one, do one, teach one. Sitting in a classroom and listening and watching a slide on a technique is one thing. Putting the gloves on and having somebody stand over your shoulder and say, no, this is how it works is another one. And more importantly, having somebody stand over your shoulder and tell you, this is how I screwed this up. Because nothing drove me nuttier early in my career than taking C, when you'd go to somebody and their pictures, everything was perfect. Everything looked beautiful. And I kept thinking, I said, well, surely to God, that's why I went in through Pankey. I would see some of these lectures. I go, how did you handle the occlusion on that? He goes, hey, I let somebody else worry about that. I just make them look pretty. And I went, okay, well, it's got to hold up. And, I made a personal commitment at that point. The gentleman whose office I bought, Pankey trained, big gold. I mean, I still have a few of his patients that are in their late 90s with gold onlays on all their posterior dentition. Once in a blue moon, I have to put a crown on because of cervical decay, because of, dry mouth syndrome or whatnot. And, I looked at myself and I called Frank Spear, whom I'd taken a course, and I said, hey, I'm at a point in my career where I need to put my focus on education, some advanced training. Do I go to Pankey? Do I go to LVI? And he said, let me tell you, I'm rehabbing people from LVI right now. I said, go get the philosophy. And he says, well, what are you looking for? And I said, I'm looking for a legacy practice. I said, I was fortunate enough to have the baton passed to me from somebody who was an excellent clinician, an excellent friend to his patients. I said, one day it's going to be my turn to pass that baton. And I want somebody to look in my patient's mouth and say, holy cow, he did this in 1992. And look at this. It's still holding up fine. It looks beautiful. Patient has all their teeth. So, that was my commitment. And that's what I tell the students. I said, you guys need to make that commitment to pass the baton on to the next person when you have the privilege of serving the patients that allow us to have the lifestyles we have, to allow us to pay for our continuing education. But I also tell them that I could probably make a mistake early on in my career back in the early 90s. I might be able to absorb a $5,000 mistake by taking the wrong course or buying the wrong piece of equipment. So with the amount of debt that you have coming out of school right now, you can't afford to make those kind of mistakes. You have to make the right decisions. And that's why being involved in organized dentistry, especially the AGD, is that we are a group that shares our life stories with each other. Why I became involved on a state level is because as I looked around that table, I saw gentlemen that practiced in city practices in Cleveland and Columbus. I saw brothers that had a group practice together. I saw one of our dear friends, a dear friend of mine and dear mentor, Roger Winland, practiced in Appalachia, Ohio, and had an extremely successful practice. And as I said in one of the many articles that I've been quoted on, said the one thing they had in common is they were all AGD members, regardless of the practice style they had or location. They were all, I'll use the word successful in quotations because success isn't just, in my opinion, financial. They were happy. They loved going to the office. They had staff that loved coming to the office, and they had patients that loved coming to see them at the office. And I said, so it's crucial for you to be a student of your profession, but more importantly, join an organization where you're not just learning, but you're going to get some sage advice from people taking the classes with you. There's no substitute for experience, and we as AGD members are always willing to share our experiences with the younger colleagues coming up.
I love it. I love it. And I think there's a lot to be said about that. I mean, I got involved in the AGD because I won an award my senior year. And I hate to say this, but I don't know that I would have known much about it outside of that award that caused me to look into that. So I love what you all are doing for dental students, but beyond that, beyond the students that win an award or do something, what are you doing to get the word out about how important the AGD is throughout your career to some of the younger dentists and dental students? I mean, what's your push? What's your drive?
Well, we have had a huge push over the last 4 or 5 years on establishing dental student chapters in every dental school. And I think we're up to 70 schools as of last. We've established fellow track programs at those schools where the students, that's the other communication, I tell them, I said, the average cost of CE out in the real world is a couple $100 an hour. I said, you could, as a dental student, amass 50 hours of continuing education at zero cost to you by being a student member of the AGD, and you're going to get some pretty top-notch continuing education. So we get them while they're in school, and we put the focus on education. And then I explain to them and said, God forbid you go do a GPR or an AGD residency, you're going to get another 150 hours of pretty much free CE. I mean, you're working your butt off during a residency. I did one. I said, so you're coming up 200 hours dead free for that CE. That translates to thousands upon thousands of dollars that you have saved yourself in education, in your career. We talk about, I'm a huge advocate of advocacy. That was really one of the main reasons I ran for office. I remember during my campaign year, and I have the distinction of being the first president of the AGD to win a virtual campaign. I was sitting right here at this desk, zooming into every region in the country. Unbeknownst to them, I had no shoes and socks on. I had my suit and tie on. when the election results were announced, we went out to the front porch. My wife took my picture and said, "Hurry up." She goes, "Why?" I said, "My feet are freezing." Then she looked at me, she said, "Oh my God, you don't have any shoes or socks on." I've been pretty comfy all day long sitting here. But oh gosh, I lost my train of thought there. Where was I going with that?
I don't know, something about it being cold. I mean, you are from Ohio. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I only took the shovel out once this year. But the advocacy is and that's one of the reasons I ran is like, we were considered non-essential. And yet I sat here, I kid you not, my driveway's right out here. My wife and I would sit in the driveway for the 6 weeks that we were shut down, and Stanley Steamer, the carpet cleaner, was cleaning everybody's house. And I'm going, how in the hell is somebody going in, misting and spraying? They're telling us we can't work because of aerosols. And yet some guy spraying, misting, vacuuming, and all he's doing is putting footies on and going into everybody's house. And then I'm going to tie another funny story tying into your initial discussion. My chiropractor was open and practicing. And I went in and saw him, and I said, I don't know, how are you guys able to practice? I was on the state COVID team, state dental COVID team, and we were meeting weekly with the governor's office and with the chief medical officer, with the state dental association and the state dental board. And he says, I don't know. And, keep in mind, he wasn't wearing masks. He goes, well, Doc, you guys produce a lot of aerosols. And I said, hey, let me tell you something. When you're laying on my back and compressing, I said, there's aerosols coming out of multiple orifices. Tying it into your
Exactly.
And all he did was just crack up. He goes, it's true. He goes, yeah, it happens all the time. I said, yeah. I said, my water's sterile distilled water that's being used.
Exactly.
Said, there ain't nothing sterile coming out of some of the orifices.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, you're right. I go, yeah, it just happened to be. So, the lobbying on behalf of the general dentist is a big thing for me. I have a brother who's an oral surgeon, and he's never been involved in the political arena. He's kind of in awe. He said, I don't see how you do it. I said, well, we have to do it. I said, sometimes the standards for you guys are different than the standards for us. And we need to stand up for the quarterback of the team. Dentistry is still, the general dentist is the dental home for the patient. And we refer out as needed when we know our limitations and our capacities. I said, but we must be able to advocate and legislate on behalf of you, the general dentist. We're having an issue, currently right now with this DEA mandate where the Academy of General Dentistry was left out and unbeknownst to any of us. And so, we have a new lobbyist now. So we're lobbying with the DEA. I will be meeting with SAMHSA next week, trying to allow our PACE accreditation, which stands for something, to be to mean something for our members. We're kind of behind the 8 ball as it is, because that passed December 29th. And, it was really brought to our attention after the fact. You can point fingers anywhere you want to go. I mean, my philosophy is sometimes you have to look yourself in the mirror, because I ask where, we have a lobbyist, we have team members that are involved with legislative and dental practice. We have councils that are involved in that. I said, but, apparently nobody really knew or had heard of this potentially happening. And yet here we are. So this is, for us, something big, because, I called my brother, the surgeon. I go, isn't it funny that your specialty group was brought into as an approved educator of this? Obviously, they write a lot of prescriptions, but, and I contacted my good friends and colleagues at the ADA, and I said, they know I'm not happy. I said, shame on you. I said, I think you as the parent, and I'm a lifelong ADA member. I'm a delegate to the ADA, but tonight I'm wearing my AGD hat. And I'm telling you that I have spoken on behalf of the general dentist of the Academy and said, as the mothership of dentistry, you should have sent a notification to every specialty in dentistry of what's
Right.
coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
I don't want to be selfish and say just the AGD. And then I kid with them. I go, the second largest dental organization in the world said, you should have announced this to every specialty organization in the United States and let them know what's coming around the corner. And so we've had some interesting discussions in that sense, but we must stand up for the rights of the general dentist. I mean, I've had pending legislation in Ohio. I always introduce myself as coming from one of those 5 states that won the $3 million lottery from Kellogg for mid-level providers. And I can tell you that in Ohio, it has not happened. There's never been a bill. But we as the AGD work with the State Dental Association. And that's where I think the collaboration needs to happen. We don't have a PAC fund in the AGD, something I question sometimes. But, our state AGD association donates to the state PAC every year. And a lot of our leaders, as you guys probably know all too well, leaders in the AGD, a lot of them are leaders in the ADA too. So, we'll be at Hill Day, for instance, in a couple of weeks in May, and we will be advocating for some of these things: oral health literacy, dental student loan forgiveness. There's always the slate of 4 or 5 things, but I can guarantee you this being left off the DEA list is on the top of the list. And, that's one of the things I told our new lobbyist through our new executive director. Well, she's not new anymore. She's into her 3rd year. I said, our new lobbyist must make sure that every federal agency in Washington, D.C. that deals directly or indirectly with healthcare knows who the AGD is. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the big pushes that I'm throwing on the table, because we are players in the game and we should be known to be players in the game.
All right, Hans, I'm going to pivot for a minute. So oral cancer awareness is this month, and we wanted to highlight some of the work that the AGD Foundation is doing, and that, at least to my knowledge, and there may be other groups out there, but to my knowledge, one of the sole foundations whose core focus is on oral cancer awareness and screening. So if you could share a little bit of information with our audience about what they're doing, what their objectives are, where their core focus is, and how they're putting their mission to practice.
Sure, absolutely. Great questions. Yes. And I serve on the foundation board also. The AGD Foundation is the AGD's foundation. So, we are the philanthropic arm of the AGD, and our core mission right now is oral and oropharyngeal cancer screening, education, and outreach programs. So, for instance, we have grants that are awarded people. I was on the grant committee. We'll probably get 30 to 50 requests for grants. They have to meet the criteria that we have with oral cancer screening. So we want to know how many people they saw, who the follow-up, should you spot a lesion, who the referral source is, et cetera, et cetera. So, trying to educate the dentist on proper screening techniques. And I think most AGD members probably do it. I know I've always done an oral cancer exam on every patient every time I see them. There's nothing better than when they ask, what are you doing when you stick your fingers in my mouth? I go, I'm feeling for lumps and bumps that should be there and lumps and bumps that shouldn't be there. And I guess because I'm on the show, I can't put my name in to win the Velscope, but I've been using Velscope for years. Actually, I used Visalite before Velscope.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, nothing like complaining about that wonderful taste in your mouth after swishing with it. So we screen. I use the Velscope on patients. In my section of the state, a lot of chewing tobacco, and we all know you see a chewing tobacco. It's like, well, what section am I going to look at? So with the Velscope,
mm-hmm. Thank God we don't have that in South Carolina.
Yeah, nor in Texas.
But anyway, so the foundation issues a lot of grants. Our big our big event is at our annual scientific session, where we always do a screening. The year before COVID, we screened 365 people. After COVID, we did 100, and this year we'll be in Caesars. We'll be screening on the exhibit floor. And we have a new management company. We've actually segregated the business of the foundation from the AGD, so that there's, we're not commingling any kind of funds or anything like that. But so we just launched a new webpage, which is phenomenal. It's got a toolkit on it for dentists, toolkit for patients, the infamous big donate button at the top, because that's what it's all about, is donating. We have, you name any kind of social network, from Facebook to Instagram, YouTube. We have videos of survivors with their stories about how their dentist saved them. And, there's nothing better than hearing that from your patient, at least once or twice a year, and it's not in their mouth. I had one that I kept looking at something over the corner, over his eye, and I kept looking at him and said, "Randy, you need to get that checked out. That doesn't look right." I said, I'm not a physician, I'm not a dermatologist, but I'm telling you, I know enough to tell you that doesn't look right. And he came back 6 months later, and he says, "You saved my life." I said, my wife told me to go. And when you told me, I said, okay, I better go. We find oral lesions, and, and I tell people, I said, I'm hoping I'm wrong, because I tell them Velscope is not diagnosing cancer, it's screening for cancer. And the beauty of that technology, whoever happens to win it, is I can mount my camera onto it and take a photo of what I'm seeing, send it to whoever is going to do the pathology on it, so they can see what I saw on that day. And then, probably for me, the most exciting is I get to be on stage with Jim Kelly. He's going to be our keynote speaker, 3-time oropharyngeal cancer survivor. And the interview I had with him was phenomenal. He's high energy. He's obviously had a lot of surgery done. So, you will see him, and I'm sure he will explain that when he meets the crowd. He carries with him.
Pennsylvania boy, isn't he, Hans?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, well, we had fun because, he had his Buffalo Bills hat on, and I took out my Buckeye hat, but then I also took out my Cincinnati Bengals hat. And when the Bengals beat the Bills in the playoffs, I told him, I said, I may bring the Bengals hat up on stage, because I know he'll have his Buffalo Bills hat on. So a lot of fun, but he has to drink water nonstop, because he's obviously, his salivary glands are pretty much non-existent because of all the treatment he's had. So, and we encourage our constituents to hold outreach programs. We have the toolkit for how to put that together, how to organize it, more importantly, how to document it also, because, this kind of feeds into the access to care issue, because unfortunately, some of the populations that we're dealing with are underserved populations that don't go see somebody on a regular basis. And, it helps when we go to legislators and say, we don't need mid-level providers. We don't need any of this. Your dental organization is doing this. It's educating the dentist. It's got programs reaching out to populations that don't have access to routine oral care or health care in general, to be honest with you. Because as most of us do, I'm sure all three of you have diagnosed somebody with undiagnosed hypertension or diabetes. The ever popular 38-year-old guy whose wife makes him come in, and you take a BP and it's 200 and something over 100 something. And I'm going, when's the last time you had a physical? And he goes, when I went to the Army and I was 18. I said, yeah, you need to, your dental problem. I chose dentistry because it's not life and death. We need to get you to a physician first. We need to get this under control before we worry about your teeth in that sense. So exciting times for the foundation. The foundation board is hardworking. They are all volunteer dentists, but we also do have some people in industry, corporate entities, when you guys were discussing that, involved with it, because we need a skill set, and then, and anybody's
Yeah.
able to volunteer. We need that kind of skill set for people sitting on the board for fundraising, and who has connections in that arena, in that realm, who can help us get some corporate sponsorship, corporate donations to allow us to do even more in that sense.
Well, and I think it's been
Hans,
proven with every group has vendor partners and educational partners that they work with, and that it can be a collaborative effort. They know products and the service and industry incredibly well. We know the biology and the dentistry very well, so it can be a really cohesive relationship. Hans, we are out of time.
Oh gosh.
I know. Does it not go so fast?
Time flies when you're having it. You guys are phenomenal. I loved my time with you guys.
It was great having you.
So and thanks for calming me down before. I get a little freaked out when technology doesn't work. And I'm going,
Me too.
Hey, so does my wife. I get it, man.
Well, that's why I have my wife.
Yeah. Well,
we
I just
appreciate. Go ahead, Chad.
I just want to close with thanking you for being an advocate for all of us. I mean, it's very important. This is the first fireside chat that I've ever had with a president, so I'm kind of excited, feeling a little giddy. But hey, thank you for what you do. Thank you for just being a good dentist that's passionate about the progression of our profession. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
We all appreciate that.
One of you put it exactly. I'm one of you. That's what sometimes our executive director says. People are intimidated by you guys and go, why? I'm one of them. And that's what
exactly.
When I talk to people, I said, I just happen to be the guy that won an election, but I am you.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate it. And as we close tonight, I wanted to just say a couple of things. First off, I think there's somebody that we were all knowledgeable of and very fond of, who lived a great 95 years. And I think it was your post today that I saw that Dr. Cy Wachenheim passed, and just want to pass my condolences to his family. He was certainly an advocate of the AGD and of education, and damn, did he run a tight ship in Illinois. So
yes, he did.
For the full 95 years he did. So
yes. Do you know how many Illinois dentists are thankful for all his time in the AGD, what he did for that group and the education that he brought there? Hats off to Cy. What a great job he did for that group, and as an AGD member, as a an advocate, and as an educator. Just great guy, and we appreciate him.
Always willing to talk. I mean, I met him. He didn't know me from anybody, and we sat down and talked because he educated Illinois. But I can tell you, there are people from all over the country that I know people in Ohio, Indiana, Michigan that would attend the Illinois courses.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know Chad and I both had the opportunity to speak for Illinois AGD, and he did. He ran a tight ship, but all the dentists who got to be a part of those programs are better off for it. And
it was quick. It was announced to us last night on our board meeting. It was quick, so hopefully he didn't suffer, but
special man.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. He is.
He was tough dude. So, but with that being said, we just want to close out tonight. I do want to make an announcement that the Velscope. Thank you to Velscope for offering us the device to give away tonight. The secret phrase will not be mentioned again, but it was somewhere in the episode. And I'd also like to just make special mention that we have once again partnered with some great educational partners. We have Shofu on board. We have Prexion on board. We have Q Optics on board. We had a wonderful show tonight where Velscope offered a great device for all of us. We're just thankful for all the support that we have, and we look forward to going forward with everybody. So anyhow, that's it. I hope everybody has a great week. And Hans, we'd love to have you back. Thank you again.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Anytime. Thank you,
Nice.
Hans. Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
And that wraps up another podcast for Dentists in the Know. On behalf of Dr. Jennifer Bell, Dr. Chad Duplantis, and myself, remember that we've got a great profession, so let's make it a great day, Dinks.